Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Williams, and this is a short little video, hopefully I'll keep it short, about what I am looking for in your lab reports. Pretty generalized video, as each lab report that you will build and turn into me throughout the year needs to kind of follow this general format. So I'm going to kind of break it down section by section and let you know what you need to do in order to obtain the best potential grade possible. All right, so here's your guide. Okay, first and foremost, make sure that you have a title. All right, include a title for your lab report. Include a title for your lab. All right, put your name and your lab partner's names on the report, and also include the block. Okay, now these lab reports need to be a collaborative effort, so everybody's working together. Hence, I keep pushing those two practices of communication and collaboration. Okay, the best ways to submit this to me are through online submission, so like sharing it as a Google document, or emailing it to me as an attachment of some sort, a Word document or a Pages document. I have no problem if you use some other technology in this building and put your lab report together using Microsoft Word or even a PowerPoint, whatever is easiest for you to get the job done. Just make sure you share it with me either digitally as attached as a document or shared through Google Drive or Google Docs, or print it off and turn it into me. Okay, so those are the two ways to submit it. All right, but make sure that it again is a collaborative effort. And if you use Google Drive, if you put together a presentation or a Word document through Google document, excuse me, that can be a collaborative effort. All three of you can edit and adjust the document. It can be almost like a live, living, breathing lab report with your commentary back and forth to each other during the course of the lab and during the course of the lab report completion. Okay, so make sure you title it and make sure you submit it to me as a Google Word document, a Word document, or some type of presentation like a PowerPoint. Okay, moving on. You need to make sure that you include 7 of the practices inside of your lab report. And the very first is the inquiry. All right, you need to clearly state your question. You don't really state a question, but that's what you'll do with your lab report. You'll go ahead and you will, boom, put the question right at the very beginning. I want to know what is the question that your entire lab is organized and built to answer. Okay? In addition to stating the question, I want you to provide some commentary. Okay? Some comments, some remarks about why you chose that question or what steered you towards that question. What was your inspiration there? Okay? Commentary, usually 2 to 3 sentences of why. If you ask that question, I'm going to ask you why. I'd like you to provide the answer to why underneath the inquiry section. After that, I would like you to cite your research. Encouraged everybody in biology and integrated science to do research prior to starting your investigations. Go out, seek some other guidance, seek some other perspectives, if you will. So go ahead and cite those sources, include those website addresses and or other materials that you use to gain some other additional knowledge before you began your investigation. The hypothesis is the next section that you need to tackle. Like the inquiry, you're just going to flat out state your hypothesis. It's your testable explanation. What is your initial explanation for your question? So you're answering it with hypothesis, but you still got to test it to see if it's a potentially valid answer or explanation. Okay. In addition to just stating the hypothesis, I'd like you to also provide a little more commentary. 2 to 3 sentences explaining why you went with that hypothesis. After your hypothesis, you're going to enter the largest portion of your lab report, which is going to be the experiment section. And I say largest portion because a lot of moving parts and a lot of information included in just the experiment, but also your data collection will kind of slide right in underneath the experiment section. Okay, because it's the data that you're collecting in real time during the experiment that is also one of those major scientific practices. Okay, in the experiment, you need to make sure that you include your procedure. Make sure it's detailed, well written, step-by-step process of what you did throughout the duration of your investigation to test your hypothesis. All right, include the materials. Make sure you outline what the experimental and control groups were. Provide me with information on the variables, both constant, so held the same throughout the duration of the lab, and the independent and dependent, Which ones did you change? What was your measurable information? Other than that, you need to make sure that you're including a lot of observations and inferences that happen throughout the entire test, your entire experiment. Okay, that could be written statement that happened throughout the experiment. It could also be some of the photos or little videos that you took throughout. Okay, if you have questions on how to share those with me, come and ask. Okay, come and ask. But the experiment portion is going to be the largest section of your lab because it's got a lot of information that you will share just about how you built your experiment, and it'll also have a lot of information from all the data that you collected. And if you're collecting some quantitative data, numerical data, make sure that you include it in some table form. Make sure it's well organized and easy to follow. Okay? Finally, you get into your data analysis. I said finally too soon because we still have another scientific practice after this. But your data analysis is going to be some form of chart, some form of graph, some form of pictorial representation of what your data means to you. What did you gather from the data? How did you read the data? What is it saying? Okay, so take that data that you gathered and do some form of comparison and contrasting to see if you can't harvest some additional information from it and have it maybe make sense to your hypothesis in your initial inquiry. The final section is your conclusion. And by rule of thumb, your conclusion should be at least 8 to 10 sentences. 8 to 10 sentences at the least. Okay, about a half page typed. But that should be pretty easy because I'm looking for you to talk about quite a bit inside of your conclusion. First and foremost, you need to reflect back on your hypothesis. Is it valid? Your testable explanation, is it a plausible or potential explanation to answer the question, your inquiry, that the whole investigation is built around? Is it not valid? The data that you gathered, does it completely deny the notion that your hypothesis could even be remotely considered as being an explanation? Is it inconclusive? Does your data leave you in limbo? Do you have a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of reservation of committing one way or the other? Whatever it is fine. It is absolutely fine. I just want you to answer it in one of those three manners. Reflect on your hypothesis as either validated, completely denied, non-validated, okay, or a little bit in the middle. And make sure that you use your data and your actual information you gathered throughout your entire testing process, the entire investigation, to provide evidence for why you feel that way or why you came to that conclusion. That alone should take 3 or 4 sentences, ladies and gentlemen. After that, I'd like you to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. What went better than expected throughout the experiment? What went really well? What went not so well? What went terribly wrong? Okay. What were some adjustments that took place throughout the experiment? As you gained more information and started doing these tests, what information and knowledge did you trip over and realize, oh, we're doing this wrong? So what are some potential adjustments, or what were some adjustments that might have been made throughout your experiment? Mention those in your conclusion. Also, error. Lots of human error can be involved in a long, difficult, complex lab investigation. What were some potential human points of error that you need to mention in your conclusion so we know that you're being unbiased, okay, and that you're just really going for the data, okay? That's pretty much what I want you to share in your conclusion, okay? That should about wrap it up. Those 6 sections need to be clearly outlined and information shared within them for your lab report. Okay, I'll be using lab investigation rubric to tear through that lab report, and also I've been observing you as you've been doing these investigations. Okay, I know how well you've been working together and who's been carrying the workload here. All right, so I'll be using that lab investigation rubric. This is a little bit of a review of what you need to do for your lab report. If you have any questions, by all means, please come and ask me. I could definitely help you out. If you want to turn in a rough draft lab report and have me tear through it and have me give you suggestions on exactly what needs to be done to end up getting the best grade possible, do that. Completely fine with that. Okay? That about does it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have any questions? Give me a shout. Later.